I woke up feeling queasy in my stomach. His hand rested on my back while the other attempted to intrude into my private area. A severe headache plagued me, unrelated to the drink consumed the night before. "Honey, I'm not a morning person," I muttered to CJ. "Oh, sorry," he whined. "But what about all those tales of you and Mark going at it all night and half the next day? I was 20. I grumbled. At 20, deeply in love, you can thrive on lovemaking. "Oh," he said, sounding sad. He resembled a hurt puppy, making me question my choices again. On paper, everything seemed perfect. I traded a 40-year-old man who worked all day and tinkered with his car for a 30-year-old who adored me. Mark focused on his job and saving for our future, while CJ was solely devoted to me. Mark, though not controlling or violent, always seemed to pick fights. When I stood firm, he'd smirk and walk away. That wasn't how things were supposed to be. My father always complied with my mother's wishes. He understood the saying, "Happy wife, happy life." Mr. Mark Clayton would shoot me a look that seemed to say, "You're crazy." If I denied him closeness, he'd just shrug and tinker more with his car. I despised that Mustang passionately. And the strangest part? Depriving him of lovemaking seemed to turn him into a blabbering fool, as my mother predicted. Yet a couple of days after I started refusing him, he developed a habit of checking his watch. I spotted a calendar in our kitchen with next weekend circled in red. Several days leading up to it were marked too. It didn't add up until I rummaged through his sock drawer and found a brochure for a high-end brothel in Las Vegas. The cover featured photos of women who seemed eager to please my husband for free and would gladly charge me for the same. They were all young and attractive. I was nearly in shock. What irked me most was that he had already crossed out that day, and it wasn't even noon yet. I wasn't foolish, and there's no chance I'll allow him to go off and engage in carnal encounters with a group of professional women. I anticipated the outcome of this scenario. He would have attempted to discard me swiftly, even quicker than his Mustang could reach 60 miles per hour in under 5 seconds. So that evening, recognizing where my primary support lay, I propositioned him for lovemaking. I was seething with anger, and ultimately, I ended up feeling hurt. "Nope," he responded. His words came out swiftly, almost as an afterthought. It seemed inconsequential, unworthy of acknowledgement. My frustration reached boiling point as the situation reversed. "Come on, Mark, it's been a whole week already," I pleaded. "I'm just not feeling it," he replied. "I could attend to your needs," I suggested. I attempted to appear alluring with a smile, although it felt like a struggle, especially when my deepest desire was to rid myself of him entirely. "Please, darling, let me please you," I begged. "I'm not sure," he mused as if contemplating. "You don't seem very into it. Maybe in a week." I was stunned, as this was a recurring pattern between us. I'd tried employing all the tactics gleaned from TV, magazines, and my mother to gain the upper hand, yet Mark always seemed to prevail. Conversely, CJ adored me. I held a divine status in his eyes. All I had to do was ask, and he would comply. Why hadn't I left Mark for CJ yet? There were 2 reasons. Firstly, deep down, I loved Mark despite despising his work ethic, his sense of responsibility, and his aversion to confrontation. Secondly, the more practical reason was CJ's lack of financial stability, despite his adoration and willingness to cater to my desires. Mark, the foolish man I married, earned a 6-figure salary. Perhaps that's why things had deteriorated between us. It wasn't always like this. Initially, we were deeply in love. However, 20 years and countless arguments had compelled us both to fortify our defenses against each other. As I reflected on how our enduring love had turned into constant yearning and eventually into intense animosity, CJ came to mind. He gently caressed my legs, trying to boost my mood without upsetting me. His gentle touch always had a powerful effect on me. However, when Mark tried the same, CJ's efforts only made me more irritated. I asked CJ to come closer and massage my chest. He responded with enthusiasm. I nodded, and he promptly moved towards me. I hesitated to inform him that his leg rubbing was bothering me and distracting my thoughts. Conversely, my large chest were as artificial as my blonde hair. Following surgery, I realized I had lost most sensation in my breast buds. Mark always knew how to pleasure me there, unlike anyone else. Another aspect I despised about him. He excelled in bed, and his manhood was undeniably larger than CJ's. Mark always left me trembling like jelly. It was hard to believe he never cheated. Even harder to believe he truly loved and still loves me. This will be tough for him, but it's advantageous because it means I can return to him if necessary. Honestly, I wouldn't consider leaving Mark if he didn't always have to win every argument. If he had just let me take control as intended, we would have been much happier. In fact, if I had been in charge, I would have been a happier wife and made him the happiest man on the planet. But he angered me too often. It was CJ who helped me understand my true power in relationships. He told me that in divorces, women usually have the advantage, while husbands often end up living with their mothers and eating canned tuna. CJ himself was living with a woman who wanted to marry him, but she wasn't exactly his ideal partner. Since they weren't married, breaking up with her wouldn't be a problem. I acknowledged his point. He seemed surprised. Today was the day he suggested I should call him, CJ whispered while gently caressing my chest. Then it clicked, the plan we'd been strategizing for weeks. We patiently awaited the opportune moment, and this week fell into place perfectly. It was opportune because Mark was away, and both CJ and I shied away from confronting my husband directly about my decision to leave him and file for divorce. The mere thought of it churned my stomach. I have a modest sense of morality, and the notion of contacting him while he worked tirelessly on business, funding our lifestyle, felt wrong. Mark deserved better, a heartfelt conversation about our relationship. If we concluded our marriage was beyond repair, only then should divorce be broached. Following the divorce, we'd both be free to pursue new relationships. It wasn't the noblest approach, but it was the path we chose. Throughout our more than 20 years of marriage, Mark never laid a hand on me or raised his voice. When disagreements arose, he aimed for compromise, a trait that often frustrated me. He was too willing to settle. If compromise failed, he'd flash a quirky grin and walk away. Over time, I grew familiar with his thought process, understanding precisely what that look meant. It was a silent declaration of, "Screw you, you'll get nothing if you won't agree to half," or "Who'd want closeness with a 40-year-old when I can enjoy myself in Vegas?" Over the years, my resentment festered, reaching a point where I craved it all. In the divorce, I'd claim everything: the house, my possessions, and most of his finances. And when he retired, I'd expect half of his pension too. I consulted a lawyer, had divorce papers drawn up, and confided in my mother and numerous friends. They all expressed confidence in its success, but advised against it. What irked me was that even my mother, who always harbored disdain for Mark, deemed me irrational for considering divorce. Yet their opposition fueled my resolve. My lawyer, driven solely by profit, suggested citing mental injury and neglect as grounds for divorce. It was a deceitful ploy, but it promised the freedom and control over my life that I craved. Deep down, I resented his obliviousness. But life is harsh, and he's capable of resilience. He'll bounce back with time. Besides, had I taken the time to discuss matters with him, he likely would have attempted compromise or talked me out of it. Sometimes drastic measures are necessary to capture someone's attention. It felt like one of those do unto others before they do unto you moments in life. I took a deep breath and answered the phone. CJ intensified his focus on my unconscious friend, as if urging me on. The rumble of trucks could be heard from behind the house, probably a neighbor's furniture delivery. I dialed a number I'd grown all too familiar with over the years. It rang once and connected midway through the second ring. It seemed almost too coincidental, as if he anticipated my call. "Mark?" I asked cautiously. "Who else would answer?" he replied. His casual response softened my self-reproach slightly. "Why are you calling me?" he questioned. He spoke as if it were strange or unexpected for me to call. Upon reflection, I realized he was right. I hadn't called him in years, except when I needed something for myself. This man had worked tirelessly to provide for us, while I had largely ignored him. Perhaps what I wanted would benefit us both. Maybe I could let him keep a little more money. I didn't need to hurt him. I just needed to be free. I'm your wife, I reminded him.
I was on the brink of liberation, feeling the intensity build as I neared the finish line. I could feel sweat dripping onto Shannon beneath me. She responded with a high-pitched sound, pulling me closer and sealing our lips in a passionate kiss. Her grip tightened around me. I let out a breath, trying to regain my composure. Shannon giggled and kissed me again. The temptation was strong. "Shannon, darling, I can't resist," I managed to choke out. She whispered back, "You'll have to wait a little longer, sweetheart. It'll be much better if you do." Every word from her was drawing me closer to the edge. "Oh my God, drive me wild, baby," I said, struggling to maintain control. Shannon had this incredible ability to push me to the edge, leaving me always wanting more. It was hard to believe it had only been 3 months since I met her. Just as I felt like I was about to lose myself, my phone rang, breaking the spell. I glanced down to see Shannon, clearly enjoying herself. Her eyes were rolled back, legs trembling. "Ooh, baby, that feels amazing," she murmured. I tried to refocus. "What are you doing to me, Shannon?" I asked, annoyed at the interruption. "I'm trying to make you happy, Mark," she said slyly. I couldn't help but confess, "I've been happy since I met you." She grinned. "You'll be even happier when we're finished. Answer the call." Hoping it might be important, I reached for the phone. But it wasn't what I expected. It was the movers. I had completely forgotten they were supposed to call upon arrival. Shannon, undeterred, resumed her playful actions, reigniting my excitement. Just as I was getting back into the moment, my phone rang again. I recognized the number and nodded to Shannon. She looked at me with a mix of amusement and a mischievous grin. After the call, Shannon rolled over and nestled beside me. I couldn't help but admire her physique. Her toned legs, heart-shaped derriere, and slender waist were mesmerizing. It was as if she was a work of art, perfectly sculpted. I chuckled at her jest about God focusing more on her posterior than her chest. I was in love again. Yes, again. Only for the second time. But this time, everything felt right. This love was akin to a phoenix, rising from the ashes of my past. Perhaps I should begin from the start. 3 months ago, I was a fool in love, enamored with a woman who despised me, and deep down, we both knew it. Yet I loved her, genuinely. Naively, I believed she loved me in return. Admittedly, my marriage had its troubles. We argued incessantly, but I thought it was a phase all couples endured. My awakening came when my secretary announced a visitor. As Shannon entered my office and took a seat, confusion clouded my mind. "Which company are you representing?" I inquired. "I'm part of the you and me out to avenge the idiocy of the corporation," she retorted. "I'm lost," I confessed. "You're about to be, Mark, and it won't be gentle," she warned. With a shrug of her petite shoulders, she continued, "Your wife is cheating on you." Initially, I thought I misheard, but her certainty left no room for doubt. She stated it matter-of-factly, as if discussing the color of the sky. Deep down, I sensed she spoke the truth. The revelation hit me like a ton of bricks. Sweat dotted my brow, my heart raced, and tears threatened to spill. Imagery of Anne with an unidentified man, lost in ecstasy, flooded my mind. Then the floodgates opened and tears streamed down my face. Ashamed of my vulnerability, I buried my head, refusing to let this petite redhead witness my anguish. Suddenly I was enveloped in the scent of cherries. Warm hands lifted my head, offering solace and tenderness. "I'm so sorry," she murmured gently. "I never saw this coming. I suppose I expected you to react like I did when I found out. I thought you'd get angry and want to confront my boyfriend." Perched on my desk, she cradled my head in her lap, stroking it in an effort to soothe me. "You love her, don't you?" She shook her head. "Even though she cheats on you and never speaks well of you. Do you truly love her? When they're together, all she does is criticize and dictate. I don't understand. You try so hard to support her, yet she fails to appreciate you or your efforts. Why do you care so much about her?" She continued to stroke my head, her voice calming, and I wondered if she aimed to pacify me or if she was simply thinking aloud. "Is it because of her blonde hair and ample chest?" she questioned. "CJ has a thing for blondes with big chests too. I expected more from you." Suddenly I met her gaze. "I don't know why I'm so furious with her." "I loved her before she dyed her hair," I retorted. "And I'm the one who paid for those chests." Her response was a burst of laughter so melodious it caught me off guard. "What's amusing?" I inquired. "I'm just speaking the truth." "I know, dear," she replied. But my dense ex has no clue that his dream woman is mostly artificial. It likely cost you a fortune to make her look that way. I shook my head, feeling as though I were in a haze, yet my anger persisted. Shannon divulged everything, how they met and Anne's ulterior motives. They strategized, believing they'd found the best way to remove me from Anne's life while securing most of my assets. Shannon found herself in a similar, albeit less lawful situation. She'd supported CJ from the start, even as he indulged in affairs with women at the bar where he worked part-time, all the while yearning for his ideal blonde with ample curves, whom he found in Anne. Beyond the physical enhancements I financed, Anne also seemed to fulfill a maternal role for him. Shannon hired a private investigator to gather intel on CJ. I conversed with her agent, Sarah Price, multiple times before agreeing to her terms. It wasn't particularly challenging. However, this information proved futile for Shannon. Sarah, another striking redhead, reiterated this to Shannon numerous times. Since Shannon and CJ weren't married, the information held no weight for her. CJ could easily leave Shannon without repercussion. Conversely, I could utilize Sarah's findings and recordings to bolster my stance in the divorce proceedings and potentially lessen the financial settlement with Anne and her paramour. Over the weeks of observation and strategizing, Shannon and I grew closer. One evening, it all culminated in a conversation. "Shannon, you deserve better than him," I asserted. "Why don't you just leave?" she suggested. "Forget about him." "But I can't leave without repercussions. I don't let anyone walk all over me," I explained. "But haven't you already gained the upper hand by uncovering his schemes? You're not emotionally tied to him like I was, so you're not trapped, right?" I reasoned. "You're young and stunning. There's still time for you to find someone who'll treat you right." Even in the dim interior of my Mustang, her green eyes sparkled. "So you finally noticed, huh?" she teased. "Noticed what?" I inquired. She grinned. "I noticed you. From the moment you walked into my office," I confessed. "Rubbish," she chuckled. "You were so infatuated with Anne that you didn't even register that I was a woman, let alone possibly interested in you?" Her laughter, as always, enchanted me. It was one of the things I adored most about her. "Why do you think I'm still here?" She choked up. "I ended things with CJ and any desire for retribution weeks ago. Helping you get even means much more to me than seeking revenge on that fool. I just can't stand the idea of you being financially burdened by those two con artists for the rest of their lives. There has to be a way for us to break free from this, darling." She drew close to me, embraced me, and kissed me for the first time. I was taken aback, yet I relished it too much to entertain the notion of not kissing her back. At 40, after 2 decades of marriage, I thought I knew how to kiss. But my experience was solely with Anne. Kissing Shannon was an entirely different sensation. The taste, the feeling, it was all distinct. I couldn't get enough. We lost track of time, forgetting about the tape recording of our cheating partners. Eventually, a voice interrupted us, but Shannon refused to let go of my hand. "I suspected as much." "All right, I was hoping this would happen," Sarah remarked with a smile. "You two are adorable together. You're much better suited for each other than your current partners. Now that you're a couple, we can let those schemers go. They'll get their comeuppance eventually." "But what about the divorce and our retaliation?" Shannon inquired. Sarah surprised us by explaining some legal matters. "The question is, are you both committed enough to pursue this?" Sarah asked. "Take some time to consider. This is a significant decision. I'll send you the bill." She smiled. The subsequent weeks were dedicated to crafting our narrative. Shannon and I honed our acting abilities. We both informed our partners about our supposed hectic work schedules, and it's astonishing that they bought into it. Neither of them had any inkling that Shannon and I were acquainted, let alone involved romantically. This afforded us the chance to spend more time together, nurturing our mutual attraction until it blossomed into full-fledged love. One day, I phoned Shannon at her workplace and declared that I was ready. "I feel like I need to be with you more," I confessed. "We're practically inseparable every night." "You silly," she giggled through the receiver. "That's not enough," I insisted. "But we haven't even been carnal yet," she whispered, indicating that she was cautious of being overheard at work. "I'm certain lovemaking with you will be incredible," I reassured her. "You have no idea," she purred. "But you do realize I don't have the same assets as your wife," she pointed out. "What does that matter?" I countered. "What truly makes lovemaking amazing is being with someone you love and genuinely want to please." Then she said it. Tears brimmed in her eyes, her voice quivering. It was as if she had been waiting for me to reciprocate. "I love you too, Mark, and I promise it'll always be this way. You can have every part of me whenever you want. I'm yours," she poured out. I was taken aback. No one, not even Anne in our youth, had ever expressed their love for me so eloquently and passionately. "And no, I've never said anything like that to anyone before you," she declared solemnly. "Not even that idiot CJ." "I never doubted it," I responded. "I'm just curious about how soon we can proceed. We're following Sarah's plan. The call this morning was precisely what we were waiting for." The ironic aspect of all this was my sincere belief that fate played a hand in bringing us together. While we meticulously planned, we took great care not to be seen together for weeks. Yet acquaintances of ours kept approaching each of us, divulging suspicions about our significant other's infidelity. We had to feign ignorance, which bordered on a comedic farce akin to Shakespearean proportions. It seemed that only CJ and Anne suspected that we were aware, presuming their superiority over everyone else. Finally, my faux business trip arrived. It was a ruse, but it served its purpose. Fortunately, Shannon's mother conveniently fell ill around the same time. The illusion of both of us being out of town emboldened the swindlers, leading to that pivotal phone call. Things didn't unfold as smoothly as we anticipated. Both Shannon and I had anticipated the call to come on Friday night. That's why I scheduled the truck to arrive on Sunday morning. I wanted to give the lovebirds a couple of days to relish each other's company before everything unraveled. Nevertheless, Shannon and I relished the moment of triumph. As I answered the call, I addressed the voice of the woman he had been married to for over 20 years. "Who else can answer my phone?" I replied gleefully. Shannon approached and embraced me, lending me a strength I never knew I possessed. "Why on earth are you calling me?" I demanded. "I am your wife," she replied.
Mark, dear, I need to tell you something, and you probably won't like it. I think the simplest way to do this is to inform you that in the long run, it will benefit both of us. It may not seem like it now, but I just burst out laughing. And he laughed too. I couldn't believe he was laughing at me. CJ went downstairs to see what was happening with the damn trucks. I wish CJ had been by my side. "So why the hell are you laughing?" I queried. "I'm being serious." "Well, the other day someone was talking to me and said, 'You'll leave me in the lurch,'" he said, still in that same chuckling tone. He really knew how to get under my skin. Well, in a moment he'll be laughing out of the other side of his mouth. And that's what it's all about. This time I was determined to outsmart him. "But let me tell you, I have some news for you," he continued, "and you'll soon find out what it is. Then you'll have to dine alone." "What on earth are you talking about?" I questioned. "I don't think it was your idea at all." He chuckled. "I think this is CJ's scheme. Hell, he knew about me and CJ. He mentioned overhearing some people talking about it, probably my nosy neighbors. I had to try to salvage the situation. No, to hell with it all. I had to follow through with it. "Mark, I'm leaving you," I declared. "I want a divorce." I put as much conviction into my voice as I could muster. But all he did was laugh even harder. "Your letter to me gave me pause and made me wonder why." "But I think you felt compelled to set things right," he chuckled. His words sent a shiver down my spine. Was this idiot psychic? Nobody knew about that blasted letter. Even CJ had no clue that I had penned a letter to Mark. The letter was supposed to accompany the divorce papers, detailing my sentiments about our marriage and where we went wrong. It also outlined precisely what Mark needed to do to win me back from CJ. "Mark, we need to discuss this," I muttered. "I think we should do it when you get home." "Just remember this, my girl. When you look at the sky," he crooned, "you can see the stars and still not see the light." "Mark, are you eating?" I exclaimed in disbelief. I called the idiot to inform him we were finished and he was singing. He feigned delight at my departure to rattle me. "Mark, if you don't make changes, we're headed for divorce," I warned. It's too late. For that, honey, oh, how painful it is," he replied. And in the background, I heard a woman's voice murmuring something about being the only woman he better call Sweet Mark. "It's never too late," I countered. "Why is it too late, Mark? And who is that woman next to you?" "Because I've already left," he warbled. "And I feel stronger, and I sing this victory song. Ooh, oh my God, ooh, ooh." "What the hell do you mean you already left?" I yelled into the phone. Suddenly, the dread I had been feeling all morning intensified. It was akin to how Wile E. Coyote feels just before the boulder he dropped on the Roadrunner starts looming over his own head. I strained to hear Mark's response, but all I heard was beeping. I flung the phone onto the bed beside me just as CJ burst into the room. The fear etched on his face was palpable. "You need to get dressed and go downstairs," he instructed. I hastily threw on a robe and cinched it tightly. In the living room stood a formidable black woman holding a tablet, looking as though she owned the place. "Who the hell are you?" I demanded. "Get out of my house." She regarded me with a measured gaze, then turned her back. "I'm feeling generous," she declared. "I understand your situation may evoke anger and resentment, but I won't tolerate rudeness or any delays. I need to vacate this house by day's end, and I aim to do so charitably. You have a few minutes to gather your personal belongings." "I'm not budging," I retorted. "This house belongs to me and my husband. It's nearly paid off." CJ called the police. "Yes, he did," she confirmed. "CJ called the police. That'll expedite matters. This house isn't nearly paid off, it's fully paid. This is likely to be the most humiliating moment of your life, ma'am." I stared at her as CJ dialed emergency. A few moments which felt like an eternity passed, granting me a chance to ponder. Then Mark's words echoed in my mind. What was that supposed victory song? What victory was he declaring? And then Hank K., the police chief and a personal friend of Mark and me, arrived. The woman strode past me, handing Hank a stack of papers. He perused them, nodding several times before approaching me. He glanced past me to CJ. "Is this him?" he inquired. "Who?" I repeated. "Don't be vexed," he said. "I'm just curious if this is the man you cheated on Mark with. It's audacious to have him here in Mark's house. Darn it, I forgot Mark sold the house." Before I could process his words, my mind went into overdrive. A rather cheerful woman pushed through the moving crew. "Is he?" she inquired. She sauntered around CJ and then flashed a smile at me. "They said you were naive, but I had to see for myself. What on earth are you talking about?" I demanded. "Half the women in town are wondering why you swapped your husband for a guy with less manhood in his pants and no income," she grinned. "There might be some truth to the idea that silicone in your chest rots your brain." "Follow my train of thought, Tina," the police chief interjected. He approached CJ slowly and quizzed. "Hey, buddy, do you know what a woman says to a guy with a really big male organ?" "No, I don't," CJ replied, looking bewildered. "How would you?" the chief retorted, and he and the plump woman erupted into laughter. "Can we proceed?" the black woman asked, wiping tears of mirth. "Sure," the chief consented. "Anne, pack your things and leave. Mark sold the house." "But he can't," protested. "This is my home. I chose it, even though he paid for it." "Anne," the chief intervened, "he purchased it with his own funds. His name is the sole one on the deed. He can do as he pleases." "Nonsense. A woman always gets the house in a divorce," I shouted. "Not always," the chief countered. "Moreover, you two aren't divorcing." "Indeed, that's correct," I acknowledged. "I intend to file tomorrow." "You should have done it last week, as that's when he sold the house," the chief remarked, chuckling. "Is this legal?" I inquired. "No," the chief replied. "It's a bit sneaky, much like sleeping with some pervert while your husband is toiling away at work to buy you all those luxuries. But it's entirely lawful." "Darn," I muttered. "CJ, contact my lawyer. I need to reach out to the bank and our investment firm," I instructed. "Do it outside," the black woman directed, waving her hand as her team began removing furniture from the house. "Where are they taking my furniture?" I demanded. "Your husband donated the furniture to a local charity auction house," she explained. "You can always repurchase it." "I handpicked every piece of this furniture, arranged it, and paid for it. Maybe you should have chipped in," Tina chuckled. "Oh, I forgot. Does hair bleach mess with your brain?" I brushed off her remark and dialed the bank. "Carly, it's Anne Clayton." "Yes, Mark's wife." "Carly, my lawyer will contact you soon to freeze our accounts, so I need to withdraw the money beforehand," I explained to Carly's overly cheery voice on the line. "Carly, first things first," I continued. "Let's handle this. I'll need enough funds to maintain the house and cover expenses for a while. Also, during the freeze, will only the current account funds be locked, Or can Mark reroute his direct deposit? Just the current account funds, she clarified. But I believe he switched his direct deposit last week when he left his job. What did he do? I gasped. Oh, crap, Carly, I want to empty all our accounts and transfer them to a new one, all right? Are you certain about withdrawing everything? She inquired. Damn right, I affirmed. Mark will land another job quicker than Tina can devour a bucket of chicken wings. But this money is all I have until the divorce is finalized. I'll need to issue you a check for that amount. Then you'll need to deposit it into your new account, she explained. Fine, I snapped. Just get it done. Consider it done, she replied. Once you arrive, I'll hand you a check for $3.11 and you can proceed. What in the world are you talking about, Carly? I erupted. There's nearly $500,000 in that account. There was, she began. I know exactly how much was there, I seethed. That's precisely what happened last week. Chief, this has to be against the law, I protested. It's not illegal, he clarified, but it's pretty rotten. Yeah, he added. The bank enforces a minimum balance policy. If your balance drops below $50, you'll incur a $10 fee. You don't have enough remaining to cover even the fee. CJ handed me the phone and I began conversing with my attorney, my words interspersed with sobs. I recounted how Mark sold the house, drained our bank accounts, and liquidated all our investments. Logging into our investment account, I discovered Mark had cashed out everything, leaving just one share in the cheese company. That's pretty clever, remarked my lawyer. He got ahead of you. It's all perfectly legal. Until the divorce is initiated, he can do whatever he wants with his assets. So he took everything. He's likely going to cash out and stash it in offshore accounts beyond our reach. He's aiming to boost his wealth to the point where you won't get a dime in the divorce. And quitting his job? Genius move. When he arrives in court broke and unemployed, you two can just part ways with no financial obligations. I doubt he'll even show up, I remarked. I think he skipped town. He left me before I could leave him. I have no clue where he went. Hey, my lawyer inquired, how do you plan to serve him with divorce papers if you don't know his whereabouts? Can I divorce him without all this hassle? I questioned. What about abandonment? It takes 3 years in this state. Do you have enough funds to last that long? He queried. Remember I just mentioned he drained all our damn money? I seethed. Well, no money means I can't afford your fees. Click. And again. All I heard was beeps, accompanied by the movers snickering under their breath. That's how my life spiraled into chaos. I temporarily crashed at my mom's place. Mark was thorough. He sold off or gave away all our possessions. He took all 3 cars, both his Mustangs and the winter Jeep. He kept my new Lexus, but I couldn't cover the payments, so it was repossessed. I consulted with several pro bono lawyers, and they all agreed I needed to stir up some serious trouble to counter his actions. Almost every lawyer, upon hearing the facts, deemed his actions brilliant and entirely lawful. There's no law saying a man must remain with his wife just because they're married, nor is there any prohibition against selling a jointly owned home. Mark had full entitlement to withdraw funds from our accounts, since he was the primary account holder. He came out on top. I tried reaching him, but his number was disconnected. There was a message there. I was certain he left me some sort of clue, but I was too dense to grasp it. Days turned into weeks with no word from him. Weeks stretched into months. I lost CJ within the first month. He struggled to make rent after his girlfriend left him for another guy the same day Mark abandoned me. What were the odds? One day, while listening to the radio, I broke down in tears. There was a band I vaguely knew of called the Eagles. Their lead singer, Glenn Frey, sang a song called Already Gone. The tale mirrored my life so closely that tears welled in my eyes. The gibberish Mark uttered or crooned to me on that day of his preemptive strike was lifted straight from this song. My life was filled with hard labor. I toiled 6 days a week alongside my mother cleaning hotel rooms. Many guests reminded me of my past life. I habitually took my blessings for granted, always believing I deserved more. After just a few days of struggling to survive, I began to regret how I treated my husband. It pained me to recall that I used to spend more on makeup in 2 weeks than I earned in my current salary. At 43, I knew my opportunities were limited. The only odd thing was that after 3 years of hardship and poor diet, I gained a few pounds and stopped coloring my hair. One day, upon returning home, I found an invitation awaiting me. The following day, I received an invite to a local cafe. Though unsigned, I knew it was from Mark. Suddenly it clicked. Mark could have emptied our accounts, but he left an odd sum. $3.11. It's been 3 years, 1 month, and 1 week since he left me. That's it. My sentence was served. My penance over. Damn, I wished I had realized this sooner. I could have dieted and reclaimed my figure. Then I realized it didn't matter. Mark always loved me. Blonde hair and ample chest were my choice. While I strove to look my best, a realization struck. I suddenly remembered the song's final line Mark quoted before he departed. It happens so often that we live in chains that we don't even know we have the key. There was a message in the invitation. It signified that we had come full circle. I was certain this meant he was ready to reintegrate me into his life. It suddenly dawned on me that I had been a fool. I was always in control. While I idled, Mark worked tirelessly to fulfill my every wish. The only time he refused was when I tried to coerce him into something he didn't want to do. When I attempted to divorce him, to leave him, he took it personally. True to form, he granted my wish and left first. Oddly, I had spent the last 3 years fearing the inevitable, expecting divorce papers to arrive sooner or later, yet they never did. Now I felt I understood why Mark still loved me and eagerly anticipated our reunion. I arrived at the bar slightly early. A disheveled bartender, showing signs of heavy drinking with his ruddy complexion, approached my table. "You've put on weight," he remarked. "How many donuts have you eaten? Have you drunk enough to forget your own shortcomings?" "What brings you here, CJ? I thought you still worked here," he retorted. "I received an invitation for lunch at a cafe across the street," I explained. "I came to gather courage." "This is odd," he observed. "Too much of a coincidence." "What do you mean?" I inquired. "I also received an invitation," he revealed. "Did yours include a cryptic riddle?" "It wasn't much of a mystery," I replied. "It was Mark's way of signaling he wants me back." "What exactly did it say?" he probed. "It read, 'We've come full circle. I'm ready to give you what you want,'" I recounted. "You're right," he acknowledged. "Yours differs from mine. Mine posed a question. Why does a squirrel hide nuts in its nest?" "I'm clueless about that," I admitted. "I believe it means Shannon wants me back," he concluded. "Squirrels hide nuts to protect them from birds. Birds is slang for women. Shannon's telling me she doesn't want me with other women. I think they colluded to reunite us after a period of suffering, wanting us to accept them on their terms." "Forget all this," I exclaimed angrily, abandoning all I had learned over the past 3 years. "If Mark wants me back, he'll have to work hard for it." With resolve, I stormed out of the bar and made my way across the street to the cafe. Taking a seat at a small table, I scanned the cafe and spotted CJ's entrance. He settled at a nearby table on the sidewalk, where 2 college guys played hacky sack. Seeing CJ, I pondered his riddle and realized his mistake. Despite waving desperately, he remained engrossed with the guys until he eventually noticed me. His wave and headshake left me puzzled. As CJ sat, the guys nearby lost control of their bag, which flew toward him and toppled his glass. Rising angrily, CJ was struck in the groin as another bag fell before him. One of the guys attempted to skillfully kick the bag back up but missed, fortunately leaving it undamaged. However, his foot landed a mighty blow to CJ's lap, eliciting a piercing scream. I hurried over as waiters tried to assist him, but all they could do was help him to his feet. As the ambulance arrived to take him away, I informed him, "Your interpretation was off." Through his pain, he groaned, "What?" "She didn't want your return," I clarified. "It's not about birds, it's about reproductive organs." "Doesn't matter," he grumbled, attempting to speak further but was interrupted by the appearance of a girl resembling a college student. Tall and fair-haired like me in my youth, she approached with a briefcase and gum in hand. "Are you Anna Clayton?" she inquired. "Yes," I answered sharply. Handing me a stack of papers, she explained, "His list of demands. Why don't you ask him yourself? You've been served, she spat. Glancing around the cafe, I spotted him. Suddenly, the riddle's meaning dawned on me. Full circle signified achieving what I desired, not necessarily Mark's return. This meant I got what I wanted. After Mark and I split up, we got divorced. The issue was it wasn't what I desired anymore. I yearned for the life I once knew and lost. To be frank, I was accustomed to living modestly. Most importantly, I longed to reconnect with Mark himself. Then I spotted him. He appeared well, even better than when we parted ways. He seemed content. However, he wasn't by himself. A woman accompanied him. She had red hair, was youthful, stunningly beautiful, and noticeably pregnant. Between them, holding each of their hands, was a little girl who perfectly blended their features. She sported Mark's hair color and her mother's vibrant green eyes. This petite girl gave me the same peculiar smile Mark had. Perhaps it's genetic, or she somehow sensed the situation and its significance, just like I did. The moment I saw them together, I realized it was truly over. There was no hope of rekindling with Mark. Emotionally, he was distant. There was no use in vying for his affection. This redhead wouldn't let him go. She offered him her heart, love, and undoubtedly her physical presence. She also bore him children. Reviewing the divorce papers, I noticed Mark's retaliatory stance against me. I aimed to secure financial compensation through legal means. I needed his money, but not him. In the end, I got neither. He divorced me, claiming abandonment, allowing him to retain all his assets and his newfound happiness. I glanced up from the paperwork for one final glimpse of the man I'd lost. But it was too late. He had already departed, leaving me with nothing but tears.